there, this is Elaine Starling. I'm the host of Why 5% Succeed. This is a really fun, dynamic show where we're going to talk about sections of the Why 5% Succeed formula. I've done a lot of research. I've worked with corporations. I've worked with individual business owners. And there's a really interesting thing that I noticed through all these years of research, over 30 years. I'm not going to admit to more than that right now. But what I've noticed is that only about 5% of companies really have it all. Only about 5% of companies are really having an incredibly rewarding experience inside the company as well as for their clients. Outstanding relationships that leads to a high value reputation in the marketplace and, of course, incredible revenue. Only about 5% of companies have structured things so that they get to have it all. And I think that's horrible. I think it ought to be at least 95% of companies having it all, and that's what I want for you. So I've gone through all of this research, all these years of work, and tried to create a formula that would make it really easy for you to understand exactly what makes that holistic experience for you and for your clients. Now, I know this is kind of a no-brainer concept, but one of the things that I always remind people, the fastest way to make sure you have an incredibly successful business is to make sure that your clients are incredibly successful, because you are 50% of the solution. You're half of your business and your client is the other half. So making sure that they're empowered to have that incredible experience makes a huge, huge difference in your business. Now, I want to share a concept with you first, and then I'm going to invite my amazing guest to join me today. I'm so lucky to have Hal Elrod with me. He is great. If you haven't seen Hal on stage before, you're just in for an incredible treat. And he's such a heartwarming, generous guy, and he really does know how to have it all. So a great example of how you can leverage some of these ideas in your business too. So first, before we have Hal join us, let me talk about the two key reasons your clients hire you. The first thing that they're looking for is help in managing fear. I know it seems a little counterintuitive, but fear is something that we encounter every day. There's all kinds of things going on, lots of demands being made on you, especially if you're a professional businesswoman and you're trying to balance family as well as work and all of the social engagements and all of the requirements that need to happen. It can be really overwhelming and stressful. So the first thing your client wants help with is in managing fear. Now, the second thing that really helps your clients out is when you can help them maintain focus. Again, there's an estimated, I think it's 8,000 different things that are bombarding you every day, trying to get your attention. It's amazing any of us are still sane, honestly. So if you can help your clients just focus in on those critical things they need to do in order to get what they want, they're ecstatic. They are so happy. Now, I want to chat with Hal, and I'm so delighted to have you with us, Hal. First, let's talk about managing fear. And could you give us a quickie introduction on who you are, what you do, and then let's talk about some of the things that your clients are dealing with. What are the fears that keep them up at night?
Yeah, Elaine, thanks for having me, first of all, right? I really, really do appreciate this opportunity, and everybody watching or listening, thanks for being here. I'm going to do my best to make sure you walk away with some actionable value that you can use to improve your life, your business right away. What I do, so I am an international keynote speaker. I give speeches all over the country and Canada. So when I say international, it's all over the world if you're in the United States or Canada. I'm a success coach, so I coach business people, CEOs, salespeople, entrepreneurs. I do coaching. I've got private and group. And then probably the biggest thing that I'm known for now, I've got one here, is I wrote this book that has completely changed the lives of me and of tens of thousands of people around the world. So it's called The Miracle Morning, the not so obvious secret guaranteed to transform your life before 8 a.m. And as far as what my clients fear, I think that it's pretty universal. I happen to work with primarily humans. So I think that fears that, right, the fears that we have, the fears that my clients have are actually the same fears that I have, right? And my coach, they're the same fears that my coach has. But my coach helps me deal with my fears and manage my focus, and I pay that forward and I help my clients deal with their fears and manage their focus. And I think that the biggest fears that most people deal with, and that's true for everyone that I coach, is or speak to or that reads the book, but the fear that we're not ever going to fulfill our potential. I think that's one of the greatest fears that we have, is the fear that, not that we can't, that's part of it, but I think it's that we won't. It's almost like, well, I know deep down I could, but I think we all suffer from what I call rear view mirror syndrome, which is where we've all got this rear view mirror in our subconscious mind that stares into the past, and our subconscious is just constantly checking the rear view mirror every time we're faced with an opportunity or a challenge, or the alarm clock goes off in the morning. We check the rear view mirror and go, well, who am I? And we think that who we are is who we were, but the reality is who we are is who we choose to be. So for most of us, unfortunately, we keep living in the rearview mirror, and we keep thinking, well, I'm afraid I can't fulfill my potential because this guy never has, right? This girl, she's never come close. And we make that mistake thinking that who we were is who we are. And I think one of the biggest things that I try to help my clients do is, in the beginning, is to start to create that vision and not live from our past, but live from our potential, right? Who we are is who we choose to be, and it's based on unlimited potential if we're willing to go there. So I think the biggest fear that I help people manage is that fear that I'm never going to fulfill my potential because I've never done it before, and I don't know if I can be any better or any different than I've been in the past. And I think that's the biggest thing, is you've got to get over that fear and go, you know what? I'm capable of having, being, and doing anything that any other person has ever done, that I've ever imagined doing, and really starting from that place of limitless possibility and potential.
That's awesome, Hal. You're so good at this. I love riffing with brilliant business minds. It's kind of like extemporaneous jazz, right? Everybody has the same notes to work with, but we have a different rhythm. We've got a different syncopation. We interpret it slightly different ways. And by coming together and collaborating that way, we're able to explain a concept much more fully, much more richly, and much more compellingly, in a way that can actually be implemented. So thank you for being here and being a part of this. This is so fun. I just love this.
I love your energy. We're matching each other. It's great.
But one of the things I wanted to talk about, I have to share a story here. I don't know if this is your situation, but my mom's 88, and I take her to a lot of doctor appointments. And it was really interesting. She needed to get her hearing aids tuned up. So we go into this office, and the doctor is saying, okay, now hold really still for me, and just wait a minute. So there's this incredibly loud, annoying tone going into my mom's ear. And I mean, it's excruciating for me to listen to. I have no idea what's going on. I'm like, are you just abusing my mom? What is this? So finally, I pipe up and I'm like, I'm sorry, what are we doing here? What's the purpose behind this noise? And then he shared something really important with me. He said, you know what? People from all over Northern California, Southern California, all of the states in the western side of the states come to our office because we have this unique technology that measures the internal area of your ear. So we get a much, much more accurate reading on the shape of your ear and how to structure a hearing aid that will really work for you. And I was like, dude, why didn't you tell me that beforehand? You leave us in fear when you don't set expectations.
Yeah.
Setting expectations is one of the most powerful ways to get people on the same page and stop the fear. So, what are some of the things that you like to get people to focus on? What are the expectations that you like to set with people when you're first working with them and they're really uncomfortable starting out? So how can you help them get into line with where you're going and the vision that they have for themselves?
Well, in the military, they call this or something similar to this planning for contingencies, right? It's they don't just go, hey, all right, let's plan the mission. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Do this. Everybody ready? Go. They don't do that. They go, all right, we're going to do this. Okay, guys, what could go wrong? Right? What could go wrong? Oh, yes, Sergeant, Bilko, that's a great point. They might know we're coming. So how do we prepare for that? right? Oh, right, Lieutenant Dan, what could go wrong in this regard? So they basically try to think through every possible scenario of what could go wrong, and then they plan according to all of those. So what are we going to do if that happens? Got it. What are we going to do if that happens? So with my clients, I try to do something similar, and it's what I found is I used to set the expectations where I would tell them what they needed to look out for. But what I do now is I actually ask them what they think they need to look out for. I ask them, what do you think might go wrong? So you're committed to wake up every day at 7 a.m. for the miracle morning, for example. That's your new commitment. You're going to get up an hour earlier and you're going to wake up. In the past, you've never done that before. So what do you think could prevent you from doing that now? And I let them tell me. And sometimes they might not know, and then I do step in and I go, well, hey, what if the alarm goes off and you don't feel like getting up? What are you going to do in that case, right? In the past, you've always stayed in bed. What are you going to do differently now, right? And I try to make it as simple as possible. I try to give them a strategy. Like, here's a simple one. This is from the Miracle Morning. For people that are not morning people, and they're like, I'm addicted to the snooze button. I call them snoozeaholics, right? I'm addicted to the snooze button. I don't know, I don't know how to not push it. I've been doing it for years. That rearview mirror syndrome. Alarm goes off. You think, what do I normally do? Oh yeah, I just hit the snooze button, right? I procrastinate a little bit longer, stay in bed. And so I say, all right, so if that might happen, how can we handle that? And so one of the strategies I give is I go, real simple. Let's move your alarm clock as far across the room as possible on the way to your bathroom. And then that way, you're not half asleep reaching over with your eyes closed onto your bedside table when it goes off. You actually have to get out of bed and walk across the room to turn it off. You're going to be 3 to 5 times more awake than if you were still in bed while you turned it off, right? And so that's one aspect. And then I will go beyond that. I'll say, okay, so when you turn the alarm off, why don't you decide before you go to bed what's going to happen next? The bed's going to be calling for you to come back into it. So why don't you commit and visualize before bed that you're going to go straight from the bed to go brush your teeth in the bathroom, literally. And I told him, visualize yourself turning off the alarm and not breaking stride, turning it off and just continuing to go all the way to the bathroom, wash your face, brush your teeth, and now it's going to be 10 times easier to get out of bed and beat the alarm clock than if you had it on your bedside table and you were just reaching over and turning it off, right? So I asked them what they think is going to hold them back so that they can have expectations, not based on what I tell them, but based on their own experience of what's held them back in the past. And then we try to figure out a solution or a strategy to overcome that.
That's great. That is so key, because actually the more your clients are participating, the more committed they are to taking action. So I love that you've involved them in coming up with a solution that's going to work for them, identifying the potential roadblocks, and then also identifying potential solutions. They buy in and they own it. I love Brendon Burchard, who he always says, people support what they create, and it's so true.
Yeah, I'll share a quote with you. I just ran my first live event this last weekend, and one of my close friends, John Vroman, was the keynote speaker. And one of his quotes just was powerful. He said, don't ask people the questions that you want answers to. Ask them the questions that they want answers to. And I thought, what a profound, right? And that's exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Don't ask people questions that you want answers to. Ask them questions that they want answers to. Yeah, and John Vroman's one of the best. He's one of the best communicators, and I mean, he makes everyone feel amazing every time he talks to them. So, I wrote that down, and I'm living by it now.
That is fabulous. I could not agree with you more. And I think one of the things that I always recommend with my clients when they're concerned about, trying to work up the confidence and trying to move into that legacy leadership position that they are so capable of. So often when you focus on yourself, you focus on all the things you haven't done yet, all the things you haven't accomplished yet. But if you can stop focusing on you and instead focus on them, focus on really being present for your client, really trying to hear things from their perspective. And I love that idea. Don't ask the questions that you want answers to. Ask the questions your clients want answers to. That's brilliant, because it forces you to get into a state of service instead of self. Very profound. Love that.
Awesome.
Good. Well, let's keep going, because there's a lot of different things going on, as I said, and it's hard to maintain focus. Now, one of the things that I really love, and I'm a big fan of reading business books, I think I read 4 or 5 a week. One of my favorites is called The Checklist Manifesto. And one of the things that they discovered with the Checklist Manifesto is that if you use a combination of checklists and then touch points, and your checklist has a maximum of 5 things on it that you're going to do, and then you touch bases with somebody else, and that other person just double checks to see, did you fill everything off on your checklist? Is there anything you anticipate coming up that could be a challenge? You compare notes, and then you go on to the next checklist. That will increase your productivity and your results by 40%.
Wow.
40%. It's not sexy. Nobody likes checklists. It's so funny. Nobody likes checklists because, hey, I'm creative. I'm innovative. I want to be in the moment. I want to be on the fly, right? But unfortunately, when you are in the moment is when it's easy to trip and fall. And so one of the best ways to maintain focus is to have those checklists handy. What kinds of things are you using? What sorts of tools do you like to recommend, Hal, when you're working with a client to maintain focus?
Yeah, for me, it's affirmations. One of the 6 practices that, well, I guess it's part of my Miracle Morning. I mean, they kind of make up the Miracle Morning. One of the 6 practices is affirmations, and I do affirmations every day. And affirmations for me are the most effective way to manage your focus, and both consciously and subconsciously. So written affirmations, which are basically, I think they got a bad rap back in the 90s with that. Remember that Saturday Night Live skit with Stuart Smalley where he'd look in the mirror and he'd do his affirmations? I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me, right? So, but affirmations are something that when I first tried them out, they were a total game changer. I took what I did is I took the biggest limiting belief that I had in my life, which at that time was I have a bad short-term memory, because when I was 20 years old, I was driving on the highway, hit head-on by a drunk driver, died for 6 minutes, broke 11 bones, crushed my frontal lobe in my brain, and I had permanent brain damage. And when I was in the hospital, Elaine, you could come visit me for a couple hours. You could head to lunch in the cafeteria in the hospital and come back, and I would not remember that you had been with me for 2 hours. I had no short-term memory. So it was a limiting belief that was based on a very physical reality, right? Which is a very powerful. It's very different. It's like if you only have one leg, you're like, dude, it's not a limiting belief. I only have one leg, right? So for me, it's like, it's not a limiting belief. It's like my brain doesn't work. It was smashed. If you smash your brain, it doesn't work the same, right? So, but the thing is, I'm sure my brain healed over time, right? But that belief was rooted because I reaffirmed it every time you said, hey, Hal, will you remember to call me in the morning? I'd say, Elaine, remember I have brain damage. I don't have a good short-term memory. And so when I learned about the power of affirmations, I thought, I'm a little skeptical on whether or not you can just repeat phrases to yourself every day and it's going to shift your subconscious, whatever. So I decided to create affirmations around that told me that my memory was going to get better and it was going to improve. And the affirmations, by the way, I think most people don't resonate with affirmations because they've been taught over the years to create I am statements or I have statements. I am a millionaire. No, you're not. I have a sexy body. No offense, but not yet, right? So we're lying to ourselves, and we think that and that's why it doesn't work for us, is that we're lying to ourselves, and it's in our head, it's not working. So your affirmations have to be phrased not in a false reality, but in something you can buy into, which for me it was, my brain is an amazing organism that's capable of healing itself, and I'm committed to improving my memory every day until I have the best memory I've ever had. A month later, I didn't know if it was working, but I read it every morning, I read it every night before bed, and a month later, my friend Jeremy called me and he said, Hal, will you remember to call me in the morning? I said, yeah, no problem, buddy. And I hung up, and I went, whoa. Without even knowing, I had literally reprogrammed my brain, my subconscious, to completely override that limiting belief and replace it with one that says my memory's great. And from that moment on, I've used affirmations to create health, wealth, you name, literally any area of my life that I need to manage my focus, I create affirmations that that are basically, I designed them to be the perfect words to get me to focus on what I want, why I want it, what might be holding me back, and what I'm committed to doing to make sure that my success is inevitable in that area. And I do it with my clients, of course, for myself, and I pay it forward for them.
That is brilliant. I love your example, and you're absolutely right. If it is a blatant falsehood, you're going to call yourself on it every time.
Yep. Yep.
But your brain is incredibly powerful, and you have much more access to resources than you ever imagined. There's some great research out. I love data and research. So fun. Well, fascinating research. It turns out that you have influence over your friends, up to 3 levels away from you. And it's not just what you're saying to them. It's your emotions, because of mirror neurons. We pick up on each other's emotions. They are literally contagious. It's your thoughts. It's how you show up. It's what you're doing that is contagious. So if you imagine that on average, people know about 300 other people. I know it seems like a lot of people, but actually it's more if you're a professional business person. So let's say it's only 300 people. Well, that means you have influence over 97,300 people. And that's just getting up in the morning and putting your shoes on. That's before you get onto social media. That's before you reach out and connect with other people. You have a lot more influence than you give yourself credit for. So it makes a difference that you show up really ready to serve, ready to be there, and confident in yourself. I love affirmations. I'm a big believer, and great suggestion. Now, Hal, I want to talk about another thing, because you are such a phenomenal sales guy. I want to talk a little bit about the fastest way to generate great leads. And I want to share some of the formula here with everybody, because I think this helps set a foundation. One of the biggest challenges that I find in working with business owners, the first thing they say is, hey, show me the revenue, and yesterday would be great, right? I need the money coming in. Once the revenue's there, my reputation's going to be made. Everybody's going to know who I am. Phone's going to ring off the wall. I'm just going to be writing up orders as fast as I can go. And once the revenue and the reputation are there, I'm going to have great relationships with people I've admired for years. I'm going to have Hal Elrod on speed dial. Best buddies, man. And then you start trying to, you start trying to coax out of them. What else could they possibly want? And they finally get to those incredibly rewarding experiences where they're really using their innate skills and gifts and making a profound difference for others. And they just feel so up and on and in the zone. And they're loving life. They're just being the best of them they can be. And they just love that. But they think, oh my gosh, I have to go through all this stuff. And then maybe if I'm lucky at the end of my life, I'll get 10 seconds of that. Well, in reality, the fastest way to grow your business is to flip that into the opposite order. Start by creating an incredibly rewarding experience. Because if it's rewarding for you and it's really rewarding for your client, remember, the fastest way to have a successful business is to make sure your clients are really successful. So when they walk in the door and they're greeted with enthusiasm and they're having fun because they're hanging with you, that's when they want a relationship with you. All a relationship is a series of rewarding experiences. You want it over and over again. It's like a drug. You can't get enough of it. And when you have these great relationships, you have standards for yourself and how you want to show up. But it's your relationships who are communicating to the rest of the world who you're being. It's really your relationships who own your reputation. So when your rewarding experience, your relationships, and your reputation are solid, the revenue is unavoidable. It's just pouring in. So I want to talk a little bit about that incredibly rewarding experience. So I'd love to have you be my little guinea pig here, Hal. Talk a little bit about that rewarding experience that you create with your clients.
I mean, I think that there's a few things, right? There's the internal experience that I create for them, and then there's the external experience, which ultimately just really leads to the internal experience, right? How they feel about what they've accomplished as a result of working with me. The internal experience is one thing that I've found myself at times losing sight of as a coach. I've gotten so focused on the results that I've forgotten about the emotional experience with the client. And so for I'm always conscious now of really building that person up and just really breathing belief into them and letting them know that I believe in them and that, and why I believe in them. I try to give them evidence of not just rah, I believe in you, you can do it, but I believe in them, and then I'm reminding them of, hey, look at how far you've come. Right, look at how far you've come. You've accomplished so much already, and it's only going to get better from here. And I remind them of specifically what they've done. So that's kind of the internal experience. It is being their cheerleader. They're believing in them. Here's what it is. You really have to believe in people bigger than they believe in themselves, right? Especially as a coach. But as anyone, as anyone who serves others, right? You've got to believe, whether you're a parent, a coach, or you sell a product or service. How is your client? I mentioned the biggest fear we have is not being able to achieve our potential. So how can your product or service, how can it contribute to helping someone achieve their potential? And their potential, it might just be their potential to be happy, right? So your product or service might not be helping somebody, make more money or be more successful, but maybe it's an iPod, right? And they want to have a great life, right? They want to live to the fullest. So that's why you see that, an Apple commercial where you see just people dancing and smiling and having a great time, right? They're selling that experience of living life to its full potential, right? So it's really universal, and anyone can apply it to whatever you do. And then there's the external, right? It's just making sure that your clients are making measurable progress towards whatever they want for their life, and that you're reminding them that they're doing it, because they forget, right? We tend to focus. In the Miracle Morning book, I have this section on what I call gap focus. That most of us, human beings, human nature, for whatever reason, is to focus on the gap between where we are and where we want to be, or who we are and who we want to be, or where and who we are and where and who other people are that we then envy, right? And we focus on this gap in a negative way, not in a way like, wow, look at how much room there is to grow. Woo! It's like, no, look at how inadequate I am, and look at how much I suck compared to other people, right? And look at how lame I am compared. Oh man, And so I think that instead of gap focus, right, we've got to focus on the gap behind us, not the gap in front of us as much as the gap behind us, and go, look at how far I've come. Look at how far I've come. And for me, the first time I really got that was I reviewed, it was my first year of journaling where I journaled for an entire year. And at the end of the year, I went back and I read my journal entries for the entire year. I journaled every day for a whole year. And most years end, and this is most days with that gap focus, you're like, oh man, could have done more. I didn't achieve everything I wanted to, right? And that all that does is hurt your self-image and your self-confidence, and therefore you continue to achieve less than you're capable of, because you create an identity around that's who you are, because you're focused on the gap. So at the end of the year, I read this journal, and rather than finish the year going, man, another year went by where I didn't achieve everything I wanted, right? I read it, and I'm like, holy I did that? And I literally had a piece of paper and I wrote down everything I accomplished for the year. And I'm like, it was like 28 things long. And I would have had no awareness of those 28 things because I'd forgotten 99% of them. And I went, wow, I'm kind of a badass. If I did all of that in the last 12 months, and now I'm better than I was then, I know more than I knew 12 months ago, imagine what I could do in the next 12 months. So that's it. I think that you got to create that experience for your clients of helping them see how far they've come, and then helping them see how far they can go, and then breathing belief into them that they absolutely can do it, and you can help them get there.
That is fabulous. I'm inspired to share an exercise that I usually have my clients do too, because your example was right on the money. I like to have my clients pair up as accountability buddies, and I do something called a daily celebration. It works like this. So every day I do an email to my buddy, and I talk about, here are the 3 wins and accomplishments from yesterday, and then I take a stake in the ground, and here are the 3 wins and accomplishments that I will have today. Now, as an overachiever and being responsible for a lot of things personally as well as professionally, and they do take up my time, I started having a really long list, a lot more than 3 things, but it was representative of all the things I had to get done in a day. And I had a long, hairy list. And I send that off to my accountability buddy. Well, it's easier for her to get up for me than it is for me to get up about what I'm doing. So she replies back to my email and comments next to each one of my action items, raving about what a great job I'm doing and how fabulous my contribution is and how far I've come and cool resources and tips that could really help me with this project that I'm doing, that kind of thing. And then she sends it back to me. Well, I do the same thing for her. It's a whole lot easier for me to get excited about what she's doing. She's way cooler than I am. Are you kidding me?
Of course.
Right? So I get a double win. Not only do I get excited for her, then I get to hear how awesome I am. And it was like, what? Who is this? Who are you talking about?
Yeah.
But it was really interesting, the growth that happened when we started doing this. We've been doing this for 5 years now. But over time, I used to beat myself up all the time for not getting enough done. But I've been really blessed to have parents who live nearby. I wasn't blessed with children, but I was blessed with parents. And as they have gotten sick, we have been able to be really available to them and take them to doctor's appointments and do a lot of things with them. And it's time that's blessed time that you never get back. I wouldn't spend my time any other way. So I had to suddenly realize, wait a minute, I am living the life of my dreams because I'm able to be there for my parents, and I still have a great business that's thriving and growing. So it's a wonderful exercise, this daily celebration through email with an accountability partner, just to get a feel for truly what's going on in your world so that you can celebrate life a lot more.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing, Hal.
Thank you.
But I'm going to move on because I know we're getting a little short on time here. And again, I want to take advantage of your sales genius. And let's talk a little bit about the fastest way to close leads. Now, one of the things that I've learned from one of my mentors, great guy by the name of Frank Kern, he has a policy where he likes you to do some free teaching where you are providing results in advance. So you're taking people through a process and you're actually teaching them the process every step of the way. So they get, it's almost like a free demo or a free trial when it's a product, right? Somebody will give you a taste test, a wine tasting, right, before you buy a bottle of wine. Well, when it's consultative services or you have a professional service, it's a way for you to give a taste test of your services. I love that concept. Are there some activities or things that you do with your clients, maybe a newsletter or some way that people can get to know you a little bit, where they can experience results in advance with you, Hal?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the past, I've done one-on-one coaching, like a complimentary consultation, right, where like a 30-minute call where I ask them, they have to prepare for the call, their top 3 wins, 3 things that are going well, similar to what you do with your accountability buddy, right, their top 3 areas of improvement, and then the top 3 results that they want from coaching. And when we get on the call, I have them share that with me, and then now I have clarity on what's going well in their life, what could be going better, and what they really want to get out of coaching. And then I kind of give them some insight on first of all, just the clarity that they get is like, wow, it was so helpful for me to, write this stuff down, right? So that in itself is valuable. But then on the call, I don't know if I would call it giving them full-on coaching, but it's just kind of talking about what's possible in those areas, right? So how they can take those wins and magnify them, how they can take those areas of improvement and they can absolutely improve or completely ratify those, and then the results that they want, how those are possible in coaching, and maybe give them examples of how I've gotten it for other clients. I will tell you though, the best thing I've ever done that has absolutely radically transformed my business, my income, my influence, everything, is what I held up earlier, which is the Miracle Morning. Writing this book, I don't have to have that call anymore. They go, I read your book, Hal. It's completely changed my life, and I want you to be my coach, and I'll pay any amount, right? I just put on my first live 2-day event. I said, raise your hand if you read the Miracle Morning, and that's how you got here. And there were 220 people in the audience. I think 99%, maybe 97%, everyone had read the book. I told a good friend of mine who he had a corporate job that was paying him 6 figures. This was probably 7 years ago, and he said, Hal, I want to leave my job. I want to do what you do. I want to be a coach. I want to be a speaker. I said, okay. I said, the first thing that you need to do is write a book. It'll be a total game changer. It gives you a totally different level of credibility. You're now an expert. You have a book. Your face is on the cover of a book, right? And he didn't take my advice, at least not for a year or two. And he struggled to make that transition. And I'm not saying a book would have totally solved all his problems. The other piece I said is don't leave your job until you have clients paying you. That's another bonus lesson for everybody. But the point is, I told him to write a book, and he waited. He said, it's not a priority. I need money. Finally, he wrote his book, and he was a college speaker and coach. So it's called Living College Life in the Front Row. My friend John Broman. And he wrote the book, and he called me probably 2 or 3 months after the book came out. He goes, Hal, I should have listened to you. I should have taken your advice. He said, I thought the book was not a priority because it wasn't going to make me money right away. Since it's come out, I've booked, I don't remember the details, but I've booked X amount of speeches at, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a speech. I've booked X amount of clients at, $700 a month because they read my book, and that's how they found me. And I will tell you, I know one of the things I know some of the questions we're going to talk about, I'll just kind of dive into this real quick. If you look under my name, I know it says that the website, www.miraclemorning.com, that website has had over 30,000 people opt into it. And that is to get the first few chapters of my book for free. You also get a training video and a training audio. The point is, that's how I've generated 30,000 leads on my email list. So that's how, before this book was ever written, there were, as soon as before the first chapters were written, I literally got on, this is something everyone can do. If you're listening, here's the fastest way you want to generate leads. Here's what you do. You go to freeconferencecall.com. It's free. You record, you outline your top 3 bullet points, what value you can add to the marketplace, right? Or your top 10, whatever it is, your 10 ways to, train the dog that you have, whatever you do. You record an audio, right, where you give some tips. Maybe you create a 1-page handout that can go there as well. But it's free. You record the audio. This is what I did. I recorded a 60-minute audio. This was in 2009, I think, when the Miracle Morning was just an idea for a book. It had changed my life. It had changed my coaching clients' lives, and I wanted a way to share it with the world. I recorded this 1-hour audio. Elaine, can anyone do that?
Anybody can.
And it takes
Easily.
1 hour and $0, right? And then you want to go to leadpages.com. Lead, L-E-A-D, leadpages.com. And you create what's called an opt-in page, which is where, right, and it's so simple. It's plug and play. You don't have to have any technology. You don't have to be technologically savvy. You're like, okay, here's the name of the page, right? For me, it was the Miracle Morning. Here's the tagline. Here's the bullet points they're going to get, right? Here's a picture of whatever. And then here they put their name and email in, and this is where they get the audio. So I put that up, and over 10,000 people over a 3-year period opted in to get my free audio for me. It was all word of mouth and me posting it on social media. That's it. But here's the deal. Before this book was ever written, there were over 10,000 people around the world that already did the Miracle Morning every day. And they were on my email list, and they were waiting for the book. You know how many authors have 10,000 people that already know the topic and are waiting for it? Like 0.1%, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to be like I'm cool or something. I'm just giving you a tip, right? It's going to take you a while to write the book, right? So you might as well schedule a day and just outlining the subject matter is going to give you clarity on the book. So you record the audio. You can even have a friend interview you, like Elaine's interviewing me, right? So they could interview you. They could ask you the questions. You record the audio. You go to leadpages.com. You put it up. You have to have an email marketing program like Aweber. It's $20 a month, right? Where people can put their name and email in, and it'll send them, the audio you recorded. But pretty simple, right? Leadpages.com, freeconferencecall.com, and Aweber.com. That's it. You're set, right? And that is how you can start to build a huge list of prospects that you can add value to in the way Elaine does through a Google Hangout. You could do a weekly blog. I have the Achieve Your Goals podcast on iTunes. I just get on once a week. I talk for an hour. My guy emails it out. It's, easy. But that is, building a community is arguably the most important thing that you can do to set yourself up for a future of unlimited income.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is brilliant. And I also wrote a book. It's called Why 5% Succeed. That's what this show is based on. I highly recommend it. And the reason why I recommend it, when you're an expert and you're really, really, really good at what you do, you develop something that's called unconscious competence.
Yes.
You are so good at what you do You don't think about it anymore. You're actually making dozens of important decisions behind the scenes, but it's automatic. You just go right through it because this is what you do all day. You live, breathe, eat, sleep, dream it. And you're coming from such a high functioning space, you forget that others don't know what you're doing. They're lost. They have no clue how to get there. So it's really helpful when you can step back and take the time to outline how you do what you do. What is the process that you go through? 3 big steps, 5 big steps, either one. And then fill in the blanks so that people can follow the bouncing ball and understand your approach towards solving these problems. It will help you immeasurably in your business, in your life. Just capturing your own brilliance on paper. It really makes a massive difference.
Yep.
Hal, as usual, incredibly brilliant. Is there anything that you would like to leave our audience with today?
Well, if anybody wants to get the first few chapters of the Miracle Morning book, right, you can go down there and the miraclemorning.com, or I'm sorry, miraclemorning.com. And so there's two, if you do this, there's two different sets, 2 different mindsets I want you to approach it with. Number one is to get the Miracle Morning and actually use it to transform your life. I know we didn't talk a lot about it, but go check it out. There's a 17-minute video you'll get right away when you enter your email, and that way that will give you like everything you need to know about how the Miracle Morning can absolutely change your life. You want to lose weight, you want whatever you want to do. If you start your day at a level 10, then it makes it so that you ensure that you win every day, and that's how you create an extraordinary life. So check it out with that mindset of going, okay, I want to change, I want to take myself to the next level so that I can take my success to the next level, because it only happens in that order. Right? You first have to dedicate time each day to become the person that you need to be that can create the life that you want. The other mindset I want you to go through is go through it as a business person, as a marketer, and go, okay, what did Hal do here? So when you go to miraclemorning.com, don't put your name and email in right away. Read through the page. Go, how is it making me feel? How is it incentivizing me to actually want to put my name and email in, right? And then put your name and email in, and then go, okay, what happens next? What's the next page? And then you're going to get an email. What's in the email, right? So study it from a business person's mindset, marketer's perspective, and then model it. Just copy it, right? Copy it for yourself, and utilize those resources that I mentioned earlier. And I think that's it. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for being here and letting me be part of your day, and I appreciate it.
And Hal, I have to thank you too, and I want to close out with just one thought that Hal really reminded me of, and that is that every single thing that surrounds you is a blessing. It's there to serve you in some way. So instead of looking at the gap that Hal was talking about, instead know that whatever you see and you notice somebody else is accomplishing is something that means you can accomplish too. Yes. And it's an opportunity for you to look a little bit deeper. Look with those marketer's eyes that Hal was talking about and really see what is going on behind the scenes. How is he laying out the page? How is he describing this experience? Why is it so compelling? Why is it something that I would want to do? Because as you experience those things, you can craft something about your own business that makes it really rewarding for someone else to participate with you. Everything in your life, no matter how challenging it seems in the moment, is there to remind you that you're incredibly capable and resourceful. And there are people out there like Hal who can help you get where you want to go. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at 1 o'clock Pacific time. Bye-bye.